right. Sorry about the massive delay and late start. Technical problems, um, which necessitated a bit of finagling to circumvent. Um, so yeah, this week will be the final installment of Downbelow Station on this week's Wordy Wednesdays. I was all ready and set to bang this one out and be like, oh, we'll talk a lot about it afterwards. Now, a little less so. Um, but I'll do kind of an overview of some of the stuff I want to get around to reading, and it won't be a terribly detailed dive, but I will talk about what this means with regards to some of the books that take place adjacent or immediately after in the timeline. You'll know what I mean when we get there. You can probably figure some of what's happening. So the biggest thing that happened last time is really major. Is that Signe Mallory uh, appears to lose her fucking mind. Pardon my French. She appears to say, "Hey, we're going to depart the station aggressively. We're going to vent the section in doing so. We're going to run away from our own fleet." Um, we're going to have that explained presently. Um, but it's pretty dramatic. I think we can safely say that she's kind of had enough at this point. She's basically decided enough is enough. Um, Mazian, what Mazian's doing is not going to work. It is not viable for long-term survival, um, and she doesn't like it. They have too much of a conflict of personality, among other things. Um, so that's kind of the biggie. I believe she's taken, and this comes on the heels. Her what she's done comes on the heels of being ordered to kill both Josh Talley, which she'd probably have to do anyway, because he's a Unioner, and Damon Constantin. Um, Let me get rid of that black bar I got over here. I don't need that. And she seems to have said enough is enough. But she's the whole. This is after an altercation on the docks, and where she's being told, "Oh, you can't, you know, you keep telling your troops to do things differently than everyone else's troops. You can't do that. It's bad for unity." And she's like, "I'm trying to just keep them disciplined, my guy." That nobody else is being disciplined kind of sends a bad message, and the message it's sending is that Pell doesn't matter. Um, and Mazian pretty much confirms, yeah, Pell doesn't matter. That's not the plan. The plan is Earth, and turn it into his little fiefdom, which confirms what she'd been thinking already. So then she decides she's going to just dip. She's booking it. Now the entire rest of the Mazian fleet is now booking it. They're all leaving. So things have gone crazy very quickly, and we're going to have a little reflection on what's going through her mind and what her plan is, and also what's going on with down on Pell planet itself down below. So without further ado, um, I also have set up a little slideshow showing off all the covers I have available. And various art. Included in this is some cleaned up art uh, of um, of one of the covers. It also has. I don't remember if I did a stream with the Japanese cover, but that's there. Also, box art from the tabletop game, The Company War, which is based on the events of the book and the setting. I have never played it. I would very much like to if someone has a copy or knows where the rules are. I would be very much down. Um, so yeah, With that all set and done, let's rock and roll. Chapter 4, Part 1. Norway. 0:45 hours, main day. 12:45 hours, alter day. They were pulling back. Australia was veering off, Pacific and Atlantic gone off the track. Signy listened to the sigh of relief which ran the bridge as the channels gave good news instead of the disaster which had been healing them. "Look sharp," she snapped. "Damage control, get to it." The bridge wavered in her vision. Alcohol, perhaps, though she doubted it. They had gone through maneuvers enough in recent minutes to sober her. Norway was intact for the most part. Graf was still nominally at helm, but he had let it go to Alterday's Tershad for a moment, and spared a look at telemetry, his face bathed in sweat and set in a long-held grimace of concentration. G went off combat sync and weight became definite, comfortingly stable. Signy stood up, listening to the reports of Longscan, testing her reflexes. Stood steadily enough. Looked about her. Eyes glanced furtively in her direction, darted back to business. She cleared her throat and punched in general address. "This is Mallory. Looks like Australia has decided to cash it in too for the moment. They'll all be pulling back to base and giving Mazian an assist. They'll be taking Pell apart. That was the plan. They'll be headed for Sol Station and Earth. And that was the plan. They'll carry the war there. But without me. That's the way it is. You've got your choice. You've got a choice. If you take my orders, we're headed out our own way, going back to what we've always done. If you want to follow Mazian, I'm sure turning me in would pay your way back to him in style. Right now, there can't be anyone else he'd rather have his hands on. You go deal with Mazian, if enough of you want to. But for me, no. No one runs Norway but me, so long as I'm in any condition to say so." A murmur came back over comm. Channels were wide open. The murmur took on distinction. Rhythm. Signy. 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 It spread to the bridge. Signy! Crew rose out of their places. She looked around her. She looked about her, even. She looked about her, jaw set, and determined that her composure would hold. They were hers. Norway was. "Sit down!" she shouted at them. "You think this is a holiday?" They were in danger. Australia might have been diversion. They were moving too fast for reliable scan now, and Atlantic's position and Pacific's were conjecture. Anything could turn up out of the hazed comp projections of Longscan, and there were riders loose. "Rig for jump," she said. "Lay for 58 deep. Keep us out of the way for a while." Her own riders were still at Pell. With luck, they could dodge long enough. Mazian would be too busy to bother. With sense, they would lay low, trusting her, believing in her, that she would come back for them if she possibly could. She meant to. Had to. They desperately needed the protective riders. With any sense at all, the riders would have scattered to the far side of everywhere when they realized Norway was running. She had never yet failed them, and Mazian knew that. She put her mind from it and punched the med station. "How's Di?" "Di's fine," a familiar voice answered for himself. "Let me up there." "Not on your life." She punched him out and pressed guard 1. "Our prisoners break any bones in that?" "All in one piece." "Bring them up here." She settled into her cushion, leaned back, watched the progress of events, mapped in her mind their position out of plane of the Pell system, moving out for safe jump. At half light speed. That's very fast. Which explains why their scan is gets hazy the faster you go, because it would get tricky. given that it's based on it. We're assuming based on some sort of a ECM or call and response. So when you're moving faster, when you're moving at the speed of light and you're waiting on a delayed response, you don't know for sure. It makes sense. I'm mangling the explanation of how that works, and it's not going to be explained in any detail. That's one of the things that CJ Cherryh does rather well, is kind of leaves you to mentally fill in the details. She shows doesn't tell a lot of the time with regards to how the hardware works, just that it is involved. Damage control reported in. A compartment voided. A little portion of Norway's gut spilled out into the cold, but not in a personnel section. Nothing serious, nothing to impair jump capacity. No dead, no injured. She breathed easier. Time to get out. For close to an hour, the signals of what was going on at Pell had been flashing towards ships that would kick it on until, oh geez, let's retry that sentence. Let's take the paragraph from the top. Time to get out. For close to an hour, the signals of what was going on at Pell had been flashing towards ships that would kick it on until it ended up in Union scan. It was about to become an unhealthy region for bystanders. A light went on her board. She powered her seat about, faced the prisoners who had come in the door aft. Hands secured behind them, reasonable precaution in the tight aisles of the bridge. No one got on Norway's bridge, no outsider, until these two. Special cases, Josh Tally and Constantine. Reprieve, she said. Thought you'd both want to know. Perhaps they failed to understand. The looks they gave her were full of misgivings. We've quit the fleet. We're bound for the deep, for good. You're going to live, Constantine. Not for my sake. She gave a breath of a laugh. Hardly. But you get the benefit of it, you see. What's happened to Pell? Your speakers were live. You heard me. That's what's happening to Pell, and now Union has a choice, doesn't it? Save Pell or chase after Mazian in hot pursuit. And we're getting out of here so we don't confuse the issue. Help them, Constantine said. For the love of God, wait! Wait and help them! A second time she laughed, looked sourly on Constantine's earnest face. Constantine, what could we do? Norway's taking no refugees. Can't. Let you off? Not under Mazian's nose or Union's. They'd dust us so fast. But it could be done. When they went back after their riders, a pass by Pell. Mallory, Josh. Oh, sorry. Mallory, Josh said, coming closer to her, as close as the guards would let him. He shook at the restraint of their hands, and she signed so that they let him go. Mallory, there is another choice. Go over. There's a ship, you hear me? Named Hammer. You could clear yourself. You could stop this and get amnesty. Something got through to Constantine. The eyes went to Josh, to her, apprehensive. Does he know? She asked Josh. No. Mallory, listen to me. Think. Where does it go now? How far and how long? Grath, she said slowly. Grath, we're going back after our riders. Keep us set for jump. When Mazian clears the system, we'll move in crosswise. Maybe shoot this Constantine fellow out where he can take his chances with Union. Freighter might pick him up. Constantine swallowed visibly, his lips bitten to a thin line. You know your friend's Union, she said. Not was, you understand. Is. A Union agent. Special services. Probably knows a great deal that could be of use to us in our position. Places to avoid, what null points are known to the opposition. Mallory, Josh pleaded. She shut her eyes. Graf, she said, this Unioner is making sense to me. Am I drunk, or does it make sense? They'll kill us, Graf said. So, she said, will Mazian. It goes on from here. To Saul. To a place where Mazian can find new pickings, gather strength. It's not a fleet any more. They're looking for loot, things to keep themselves going. For the same thing we are. And all the null points we know, they know. That's uncomfortable, Graf. It is, Graf acknowledged. Uncomfortable. She looked at Josh, looked again at Constantine, whose intense face hoped, desperately hoped. She snorted disgust and looked at Graff at helm. That Union spotter. Lay course that way. They'll jump out of scan when they get wind of us running. Get us contact. We're going to borrow ourselves a Union fleet. We're gonna run dead on them stumbling about here in the tween, Graff muttered, and that was true. Space was wide, but there was a hazard of collision. The nearer they ran to that particular vector out of Pell, two intersecting courses relying on long scan. We take our chance, she said. Use the hail. She looked then at Josh Tally, at Constantine, smiled with all the bitterness in her. So I play your game, she said to Josh, my way. Do you know their hailing codes? My memory, Josh said, is full of holes. Think of one. Use my name, Josh said, and Gabriel's. She ordered it, looked long and thoughtfully on the pair of them. Let them go, she said finally to the troopers who guarded them. Let them loose. It was done. She half turned the cushion, averted her eyes momentarily to the screens, and glanced back again at the incredible presence of a Unioner and a stationer loose on her deck. Find yourselves a secure spot, she said. We're bending an arc in a moment, and maybe worse ahead. Two. Pell, Blue Sector 1, number 0475. 100 hours main day, 1300 hours alter day. The flying feeling hit them from time to time. They huddled together, and some Hisa outside in the corridor moaned in fear, but not those near Sun her friend. They held to her, so she should not fall, so that she at least should be safe. Even great Sun was shaken, and staggered in his course. The stars shook in the darkness round the white bed and the dreamer. "Be not afraid," old Lily whispered, stroking the dreamer's brow. "Be not afraid. Dream we safe, safe." "Turn up the sound, Lily," the dreamer whispered, her eyes tranquil as ever. "Where's Satin?" "I hear," Satin said, easing her way through the others to Lily's place. The sound increased, the human voices which shrieked and wailed over the calm and tried to call out instructions. "It's Central," the dreamer said. "Satin, Satin, all of you, listen. They've killed John, harmed Central. They're coming. The Union men, more men with guns, you understand?" "Not come here," Lily insisted, rejoining them. "Satin," the dreamer said, staring at the quaking stars, "I will tell you the way, each turn, each step, and you have to remember. Can you remember so long a thing?" "I storyteller," she declared. "I 'member good, Sunshy friend." The dreamer told her step by step, and the thing itself frightened her, but her mind was set on the remembering, each move, each turn, each small instruction. "Go," the dreamer bade her. She rose and hurried, called Bluetooth, called others, every Hisa within the sound of her voice. 3. Norway, 0130 hours main day, 1330 hours alter day. Com sputtered. Vacant long scan suddenly erupted in solid blips. Norway veered tighter into her curve. Signy caught at the console and the cushion with the taste of blood in her mouth. They red-lighted, stress alarms ringing. Josh and Constantine were clinging desperately to a hold halfway down the aisle. Lost it. Slid. "Norway, Norway speaking, Unioners. Hold fire, hold fire. You want a way in? Follow me." There was the obligatory silence while Com traveled and caught up to them. "Say further." Words, not shots. "This is Mallory of Norway.
I'm going over, you hear me? Run with me a space and I'll fill you in. Maizian's in the process of blowing Pell and running for Saul. It's already started. I've got your agent, Joshua Talley, and the younger Constantine aboard. You're going to lose yourself a station if you hold off. You don't listen to me, and you're going to have yourself an Earth-based war.
There was a moment of dead silence from the other side. The arms comp board was lit and tracking.
This is Azov of Unity. What's your proposal, Norway? And how do we trust you?
We ran. You've got that signal. I'll lead back in. You run tail guard, Unity, the whole lot of you. Maizian won't stand to fight here or anywhere else in the neighborhood. He can't afford it. You understand me?
The silence was longer this time.
They're tracking us. Hard as we can, Mr. Graff.
Oh, sorry. They're tracking with us, Scan advised her.
Hard as we can, Mr. Graff.
Norway skimmed the edge of disaster, red lighting in little flickers of stress that flesh protested, heart pounding, hands trembling in maintaining necessary control, experienced crew holding up together in sustained agony while combat sync and inertia warred. Calm and steady, hold it together on the long, long curve, keep the velocity they had gathered as much as possible, headed for Pell. They had a tail guard for certain, Union headed right at their backside, all at max. To blow them as readily as they meant to blow Maizian.
Come on, she muttered to Graff. Keep our way, hold on to it. We need all we've got.
Scan caution, a calm voice advised her and Graff. Long scan flickered with hazed green and gold. Obstacles in their path, still in Comp's memory and shown to be right where Comp remembered them, give or take a freighter's slow progress. Short-haul freighters. They were getting their chatter, as received, a squeal of conversation and panic that deepened as they came in on it. Graff threaded them. Norway shot through the interstices on a computer-aimed straight course and red-lighted to home again on Pell. The Unioners came after, and all missed with a rush that would stop hearts on the dead-slow freighters. A deep howl of terror had reached them, vanished again.
Norway, Norway,
Norway, their own comp was sending frantically, and if their ridership survived, they would rally to that summons. Blips flashed red and solid ahead of them, too fast for freighters. Comp howled warnings. Maizian was loose. Europe, India, Atlantic, Africa, Pacific.
Where's Australia?
She snapped at Graff. That recognition code had not come through with the others.
Where of them?
Graff must have heard. There was no time for chat. The fleet was massed and collision coursed for them. Their riderships were all locked to, all home to mothers, readied for jump, that grace at least. Mallory, she heard Maizian's voice over comm. Graff heard too and dropped them in a sickening maneuver that Comp transferred into Arms Comp's aim. They ripped a pattern of fire at Europe as fire came back at them and the hulls sang. G slammed at them fighting contrary stresses, and of a sudden fire erupted aft. Union had plowed in, disregarding their safety, not savvy of their comp signals, and hungry for targets. Out! She ordered helm, and Norway maneuvered with all bearable angle, finding no percentage in this fight. Alarms rang. Pell and Downbelow lay ahead, minutes ahead at near sea. They kept veering, Comp calculating and recalculating that marginal curve. A carrier blip exploded onto them, underside. Norway held its necessary course, boards flaring red, alarms ringing, collision with a world imminent and too much speed to dump in time. And of a sudden there were other blips, small and coming hard, in a ring nose on to them. Norway, 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 their comp flashed. Their own riders.
Keep on!
She yelled at Graff over a cheer from the bridge. Comp took the maneuver as hard as the ship could bear, a move that tore at human bodies and made nightmare of half a dozen seconds.
They started dumping speed hard, with Australia coming dead at them through the needle's eye of their riders, riderless itself or with none deployed. "Barrage!" she said, swallowing the taste of blood. The screens flashed terror. It was collision imminent, fore and aft, a sea-approximate ship bearing right down their tail and equally locked in escape curve from Pell. 50-50 what maneuver would impact them, up, down, or straight on. Graph dropped, topside fired, and Australia whipped over as Fields sent instruments into chaos. The hull moaned and the whole ship jolted. Maneuver continued. Suddenly there was breakup on scan, dust screaming over their hull. "Where are they? Where are they?" Graf yelled at the scan tech. Signy bit through her lip and winced, sucked at the blood. Australia could have dumped chaff, could have blown. They kept dumping speed, her order unchanged. "Cleared Pell," a rider voice came to them, what their own scan was beginning to show as they cleared the danger themselves. "And lost a vein. Think Edger's lost a vein." There was no way they could see. Australia was on long scan. It was the nature of the chaff they reckoned. "Form up," she ordered her riders, feeling more secure with them about Norway like 4 extra arms. Edger could not risk further damage now, not if a vein was gone, not for any revenge. "They're going for jump," she heard. It was a Union voice, none that she knew, a foreign accent. Suddenly there was vast coldness in her gut, a knowledge that it was all beyond recall. All beyond recall. There we go. Be thorough. Mazian had taught her, teaching her most that she knew. No half measures. She leaned back in the cushion. All over Norway there was silence. Four. Pell, Sector Blue 1, number 0475. Lily, at least, remained. Alicia Lucas Constantin let her eyes move about the walls, last of all to the small module, part of the molded white of the bed itself. 2 lights, one on, one off, one green, one red. Red now. They were on internal systems. 414. Power was threatened. Lily did not know, perhaps. She managed the machines, but what powered them was likely to be mysterious to her. And the Downer's eyes remained calm, her hand remained gentle, stroking her hair, a remaining contact with the living. Angelo's gifts, the structures about her, had proven as stubborn as her own brain. The screens kept changing, the machines kept pumping life through her veins, and Lily stayed. There was an off switch. If she asked Lily, Lily, ignorant, would push it. But that was cruel to one who believed in her. She did not. Part 5. Norway. Carefully, Damon left his place, felt his way dizzyingly past the banks of instruments and the techs to reach Mallory. He hurt. An arm was torn, his neck ached in its joints. There could not be a soul on Norway spared such misery, the techs, Mallory herself. She turned bleak eyes on him from her place at the main boards, powered her cushion about to look at him, nodded slightly. "So you've got your wish," she said. "Union's in. They don't need to track Mazian now. They know for certain where he's gone. I'm betting they'll find a base at Pell valuable. They'll save your station, Mr. Constantine, no question now. And it's high time we got ourselves out of here." "You said," he reminded her quietly, "you'd let me off." Her eyes darkened. "Don't press your luck. So maybe I'll dump you and your Unioner friend on some merchanter when it suits me. If it suits me. Ever." "My home," he said. He had gathered his arguments, but his voice shook, destroying logic. "My station. I belong back there." "You belong nowhere now, Mr. Constantine." Let me talk to them. If I can get a truce from Union to get close enough, I know the systems. I can handle the central systems. The techs may be dead. They are dead, aren't they? She turned her face away, turned the cushion, returning to her own business. He reckoned his danger, leaned forward and set a hand on the arm of the cushion so that she could not ignore him. A trooper moved, but waited orders. Captain, you've gone this far. I'm asking you. You're a company officer. You were. One last time. One last time, Captain. Get me back to Pell. I'll talk you out again, free. I swear I will. She sat still a very long moment. You going to run from here beaten? He asked her, or leave at your own pace? She turned, and it was not a good thing to look into her eyes. You looking to take a walk? You looking to take a walk? Take me back, he said. Now, while it matters. Or never, because later won't matter. There'll be nothing I can do, and I had as soon be dead. Her lips tightened. For several moments she sat dead still, staring at him. I'll do what I can, up to a limit. If they make of your truce what I think they will. She brought her hand down on the cushioned arm. This is mine. This ship. You understand that. These people. I was company. We all were. And Union doesn't want me loose. You're asking for what could turn into a firefight right next to your precious station. Union wants Norway. They want us badly. Because they know what we'll do. There's no way I can live, stationer, because I've got no port I'll dare go to. I'll not come in. I never will. None of us will. Graf, set quiet course for Pell.
Damon drew back, reckoned that the wisest move at the moment. He listened to the one-sided comm he had accessible, Norway advising the Union fleet that they were moving in. There seemed to be some dispute. Norway argued back. A hand touched his shoulder. He looked around, found Josh there. I'm sorry, Josh said. He nodded, holding no grudge. Josh had had few choices given him.
They want you, all right, Mallory said. Hand it over to them.
I'll go.
Ignorant, Mallory spat. They'll mind-wipe you. You know that?
He thought about it. Remembered Josh sitting across from him at a desk and asking for the papers. End of a process Russell's had started. Men came out of it. Josh had.
I'll go, he said again.
Mallory frowned at him.
It's your mind, she said, till they get their hands on you, at least.
And into comm.
This is Mallory. We've got ourselves a standoff, Captain. I don't like your terms.
There was a long delay. Silence from the other end. On scan, Pell showed, with Union ships hovering about it like birds about carrion. One looked to have docked. Long scan showed a scattering of red-dotted gold out by the mines, the short haulers, and the lonely position of one other ship, indicated by a blinking light at the edge of the scope, off-scan but in Comp's memory. Nothing moved save for 4 blips very near Norway, closing into tighter formation. They had come to a relative halt, drifting in time with everything else in the system.
This is Azov of Unity,
A voice came to them.
Captain Mallory. You have leave to dock with your passenger to let him off. Your approach to Pal is accepted, with thanks from the people of Union for your invaluable assistance. We're willing to accept you within the Union fleet as you are, armed and with your present crew. Over.
This is Mallory. What assurances has my passenger got?
Graf leaned closer to her. He held up a finger. Norway resounded to the clang of something against her hull, a lock closing. Damon looked distractedly at Scan. Fighter just docked, Josh said at his shoulder. They're gathering the riders in. They can run for jump.
Captain Mallory. Azov's voice returned. I have a company representative aboard who will order you to take that action.
Airs can shove it, she said. I'll tell you what I want for what I've got. Docking privileges at Union ports and clear paper. Or maybe I'll let my valuable passenger take a walk.
These matters can be discussed later in detail. We have a crisis on Pell. Lives are in jeopardy.
You have comp experts. Can it be you can't figure the system?
There was another silence. Captain, you'll get what you want. Kindly dock under our safe conduct if you want that paper. There is a situation on this station regarding native workers. They are asking for Constantine.
The Downers, Damon breathed. He had a sudden and terrible vision of Downers facing Union troops. You clear your ships back from that station, Captain Azov. Unity can stay docked. I'll come in on the opposite side, and you can see to it your ships don't get out of sync with your position. Anything crosses my tail, I'll fire with no questions asked.
Granted, Azov answered. Insane, Graf said. Now where's our profit? They won't come across with that paper. Mallory said nothing. Chapter 5 Part 1 Pell, White Dock, January 9th, 2353. 0400 hours main day, 1600 hours alter day. The dock workers were Union troops, fatigue clad, but in green, a surreal sight on Pell. Damon walked down the ramp toward the armored backs of Norway troops who held the margin and guarded the access. Far across the deserted dock other troopers stood in armor, Unioners. He passed the safe perimeter, passed through the Norway troops, headed out that lonely crossing of the wide, debris-littered decking. Heard disturbance behind him, heard someone coming, and looked back. Josh. Mallory sent me, Josh said, overtaking him. You mind? He shook his head, mortally glad of his company where he was going. Josh reached into his pocket and handed him a spool of tape. Mallory sent it, Josh said. She set up the comp keys. Says this might help. He took it, stuffed it into the pocket of his brown company fatigues. The Union escort waited for them with the troops, black clad and silver medaled. He started walking again, appalled as they came closer at the sameness, the beauty of them. Perfect humans, all of a size, all of a type. What are they? He asked of Josh. My kind, Josh said, less specialized. He swallowed heavily and kept going. The Union troops fell in about them, wordlessly escorted them along the dock. Pell's citizens stood, a handful here and there, stared at them as they walked. Constantine, he heard murmured. Constantine. He saw hope in some eyes, and flinched from it, knowing how little there was to be had. There was chaos in some areas they passed, whole sections with the lights out, with fans dead, with the stench of fire and bodies lying. G surged a marginal amount, minor instability. No knowing what had happened in the core, in life support. There was a time beyond which the systems began to deteriorate beyond recovery, when balances were too far gone. Mindless, with central out, Pell had gone to its local ganglia, nerve centers which were not interconnected, automatic systems that fought for its life. Without regulation and balance, they would pass out of phase, like a body dying. They walked Blue 9, where other Union forces stood, entered the emergency ramp. Dead here, too. Dead here, too. Bodies they and their escort filed past in their ascent. A long climb, from 9 upward, to an area where armored troopers operated, where they stood facing upward, shoulder to shoulder. They could go no higher. The escort leader turned aside and took them through the door into 2, into the hall lined with financial offices. Another knot of troops and officers stood there. One, silvered with rejuve and bearing a great deal of rank on his chest, turned toward them. With a dull shock, Damon recognized those immediately behind him. Heirs from Earth.
and Dain Jacobi. If he had had a gun in his hands, he would have shot the man. He did not. He stopped there, staring dead at him, and Jacobi's face went a dull crimson.
Mr. Constantine,
The officer said. Captain Azov? He surmised by the signs of rank. Azov offered his hand. He took it in bitterness.
Major Tally,
Azov said, and offered his hand to Josh. Josh accepted the greeting.
glad to have you back.
Sir, Josh murmured.
Mallory's information is correct. Mazian's gone for Sol.
Josh nodded. No deception, sir. I think it's true.
Gabriel?
Dead, sir. Shot by the Maziani. Azov nodded, frowning. Looked at Damon directly again.
I'm giving you a chance, he said. You think you can get the station back in order?
I'll try, Damon said, if you let me up there.
That's the immediate problem, Azov said. We don't have access up there. Natives have the doors locked, no knowing what damage they've done in there or what shooting could start with them.
Damon nodded slowly, looked back toward the door to the access ramp. Josh comes with me, he said. No one else. I'll get Pell settled for you. Your troops can follow, after it's quiet. If shooting starts, you may lose the station, and you wouldn't want that at this stage, would you?
No, Azov agreed. We wouldn't want that.
Damon nodded and started for the doors. Josh walked beside him. A loudspeaker behind them began to recall troops who came out the doors from the ramp in obedience to the summons, passing them as they entered and walked upward. The top was clear, doors to Blue 1 closed. Damon pushed the button. It was dead. Manuel opened it. Downers sat beyond, huddled together, a mass that filled the main hall and side corridors. Constantine, man! One exclaimed, scrambling up suddenly, hurt as many of them were hurt, and bleeding from burns. They surged to their feet, reached out hands as he walked in, to touch his hands, his body, bobbing in delight and calling, shrieking in their own tongue. He walked through, Josh trailing in his wake through the hysterical press. There were more of them inside the control center, beyond the windows, on the floor, sitting on the counters, in every available niche. He reached the doors, rapped on the window. Hisa faces lifted, eyes stared, solemn and calm. And of a sudden brightened. Downers leaped up, danced, bounced, shrieked wild cries silenced by the glass. Open the door, he called to them. It was impossible that they could hear him, but he pointed to the switch, for they had it locked from inside. One did. He walked in among them, touched and hugged, touched them in return, and in a sudden rush found a hand locked vice-like on his, clasping it to a furry breast. "I Satin," the Hisa said to him, grinning. "Me eyes warm, warm, Constantine man." And on the other side, Bluetooth. That broad grin and shaggy coat he knew, and hugged the Downer. "Yo mother send," Bluetooth said. "She all right, Constantine man. She say lock doors, stand here, not move. Make they send, find Constantine man. Make all right the up above." He caught his breath, touched furred bodies, went to the central console, with Josh behind him. Human bodies lay there on the floor. John Lucas was one, shot through the head. He sat down at the main board, began pushing keys, rebuilding, took out the spool of tape and hesitated. Mallory's gift. To Pell. To Union. The tape might contain anything. Traps for Union. A final destruct trigger. He wiped a hand across his face, finally made up his mind, and fed the leader in. The machinery sucked it in, beyond recall. Boards began to clear, lights flickering to greens. There was a stir among the Hisa. He looked above him, at troops reflected in the glass, standing in the doorway, with rifles leveled. At Josh, behind him, who had turned to face them. "Hold it where you are!" Josh snapped at them. They did, and rifles lowered. Maybe it was the face, the look that was Union's lab-born, or the voice that expected no argument. Josh turned his back on them and stood with his hands on the back of Damon's chair. Damon kept at work, spared a second glance to the reflecting glass. Need a comtech, he said. Someone to get on public channels and talk. Get me someone with a Pell accent. We're all right. They knocked some of the storage out, slagged some records, but we don't really need those, do we? They won't know one name from the other, Josh said softly, will they? No, he said. The adrenaline that had gotten him this far was wearing off. He found his hands shaking, looked aside as a Unioner tech seated himself at comm. No, he said, rose and started over to object. Troops leveled guns. Hold off, Josh said, and the officer in charge hesitated. Then Josh himself glanced aside and stepped back. There was another presence in the doorway. Azov and his entourage.
Private message, Mr. Constantine.
I need to get crews at their jobs, Damon said. They'll move at a voice they know.
I'm sure they would, Mr. Constantine, but no. Stay away from comm. Let our techs handle it.
Sir, Josh said quietly, may I intervene?
Not in this matter, Azov said. Keep it non-public work, Mr. Constantine.
Damon drew a quiet breath, walked back to the console he had left, and carefully sat down. More and more troops had come in. The Hisa crowded back against the walls and onto the counters, chattering soft alarm among themselves.
Get these creatures out of here, Azov said. Now.
Citizens, Damon said, turning his chair to look at Azov. Pell citizens.
Whatever they are.
Pell, Mallory's voice came over comm. Stand by for undocking. Sir? The Union comtech asked. Azov signaled for silence. Damon leaned and tried to hit an alarm. Rifles leveled, and he thought better of it. Azov himself went to comm.
Mallory, Azov said, I'll advise you to stay put.
A moment's silence. Azov, the voice returned softly. Somehow I thought there was no honor among thieves. Somehow I thought there was no honor among thieves.
Captain Mallory, you are attached to the Union fleet under Union orders. Accept them or stand in mutiny.
Again a silence. And more silence. Azov gnawed at his lip. He reached past the comtech and keyed in his own numbers.
Captain Mize, Norway refuses orders. Move your ships out a little.
And on Mallory's channel, You take our offer,
Mallory, or there is no port. You can rip loose and you can run, but you'll be number one priority for our ships in Union space. Or you can run and join Mazian. Or you can go with us against him.
Under your orders?
Your choice, Mallory. Free pardon or be hunted down.
Dry laughter came back. How would I stay in command of Norway once I let Unioners on my deck? And how long would my officers or any of my troops live?
Pardon, Mallory. Take it or leave it.
Like your other promises.
Pal Station, a new voice broke in, disturbed. This is Hammer. We've got a contact. Pell Station, do you read? We've got a contact.
And another. Pale Station, this is the Merchant of Fleet. This is Quen of Estelle. We're coming in. Damon looked at Longscan, that was rapidly compensating for new data, reckoning a signal 2 hours old. Eileen! Alive and with the merchanters. He crossed the room to comm, caught a rifle barrel in the stomach, and staggered against the counter. He could get himself shot. Could do that at this late hour. He looked at Josh. Eileen would have been in reception of Pell transmissions that showed trouble 4 hours ago. 2 hours inbound. Eileen would ask questions. If he gave wrong answers, if she got no response from known voices, surely she would stay out. Eyes tuned to scan one man at first, and at that expression others. Not one blip now, but a dusting of them, sent in as other input reached them. A mass, a swarm, an incredible horde of merchanters moving in on them. Damon looked and leaned against the counter watching it come, a smile spreading across his face. "They're armed," he said to Azov. "Captain, they're long haulers, and they'll be armed." Azov's face was rigid. He snatched up a mic and patched it in.
This is Azov of Union flagship Unity, fleet commander. Pell is now a Union military zone. For your own safety, stay out. Ships which intrude will be met with fire.
An alarm started blinking, a board flashing alarm across the center. Damon looked at the lights and his heart began to speed. White Dock was warning of imminent undocking. Norway. He turned and hit that channel while the trooper stood paralyzed in the confusion. "Norway, stay put. This is Constantine. Stay put." We're just letting you know, Pal Central. Warships might make quite a mess of those merchanters, armed or not. But they'll have professional help if they want it. Repeat. Eileen's distance-delayed voice came over calm. "We're coming in for dock. We've been monitoring your transmissions. The Merchanters Alliance claims Pell, and we hold it to be neutral territory. We assume that you will respect this claim. We suggest immediate negotiation, or every merchanter in this fleet may well withdraw from Union territory entirely. Earthward. We don't believe this would be the first choice of any parties involved." There was silence for a very long moment. Azov looked at the screens, on which blips spread like plague. The merchanter hammer had ceased to be distinct, signal obscured by reddening points.
We have a basis for discussion.
Excuse me, Azov said. Damon drew a long, slow breath and let it go. So Mallory saw, hey, there's this whole fleet of merchanters. That's my fleet now. Mallory's pretty great. Uh, she is definitely the hero of the hour. Uh, she's not perfect, though. She's done things. She's a dark and sordid past, as it were. Part 2. Pell, Red Dock, January 9th, 2353. 0530 hours main day, 1730 hours alter day. She came, with an escort of armed merchanters, onto the dock. She was pregnant, and walked slowly, and the merchanters about her took no chances exposing her to hazard on the wide dock. Damon stood by Josh on the Union side as long as he could bear, and finally risked himself and walked out, not certain whether either side would let him through to her. Rifles in merchanters' hands leveled at him, a nervous ring of threat, and he stopped, alone in that empty space. But she saw him, and her face lit, and merchanters moved, ordered aside left and right until their ranks drank him in and he could reach her. Merchanter, and back with her own, and long off the solid deck of Pell. In the back of his mind had been doubt, a preparation for changes. That vanished with a look at her face. He kissed her, held on to her as she did him, afraid of hurting her, she held him so tightly. He stood there with the whole horde of armed merchanters about them in a glittering haze, and inhaled the scent and the reality of her, kissed her again, and knew that they had no time for talking, for questions, for anything. "Took me quite a roundabout to get home," she murmured.
He laughed madly, softly, looked about him and back at the Union forces, sober again.
You know what happened here?
Some, most, maybe. We've been sitting out there a long time, waiting a point of no choice. She shivered, tightened her arm about him. Thought we'd lost it. Then Mazian did pull out, and we moved from that moment. Union's got troubles, Damon. Union's got to move on to Sol, and they've got to do it with all their ships intact.
You can bet they do, he said. But don't leave this dock. What's got to be said, whatever talking you do with them, insist on doing here, on the dock. Don't walk into any small space where Azov can get troops between you and your ships. Don't trust him.
She nodded. Understood. We're just the edge of it, Damon. I speak for the merchanter interest. They want a neutral port the way things are going, and Pell's it. I don't think Pell objects.
No, he said. Pell doesn't. Pell's got some house cleaning to do.
He drew his first whole breath in minutes, and followed her glance across the dock at Azov, at Josh standing with Union troops, expecting approach.
Bring a dozen with you and keep the rest guarding the access. Let's see what Azov's idea of reason encompasses.
The release, Eileen said firmly and softly, leaning on the table with one arm, of the ship Hammer to the Olvig family, of Swan's Eye to its proper owners, of any other merchanter ship confiscated for use by Union military. The strongest possible condemnation of the seizure and use of Genevieve. You may protest you're not empowered to grant it, but you have the power of military decisions. On that level, sir, the release of the ships. Or embargo.
We do not recognize your organization.
That, Damon interrupted, rests with Union Council. Pell recognizes their organization, and Pell is independent, Captain, willing to afford you a port at the moment, but with the means to deny it. I would hate to take that decision. We have a mutual enemy, but you would be tied up here in the long unpleasantness, and it might spread.
There were, from the other side of the table, set up on the open dock and ringed by opposing semicircles of merchanters and troops, frowns.
It's in our interest, Azov admitted, to see that the station doesn't become a base for Maziani operation, and that we cooperate in your protection, without which you don't stand great chance for all your threats, Mr. Constantine.
Mutual necessity, Damon said levelly. Rest assured that none of Mazian's ships will ever be welcome at Pell. They are outlaws.
We have done you a service, Eileen said. Merchanter ships have already headed for Sun far in advance of Mazian. One early enough to get there ahead of them. Not much, but a little. Sol's station will be warned before he arrives. Azov's face relaxed in surprise. That of the man beside him, delicate Ayres, froze, took on a sudden smile, with the glistening of tears in his eyes.
My gratitude, Ayres said.
Captain Azov, I propose close consultation and quick moves.
There seems reason for it, Azov said.
He pushed back from the table.
The station is secure. Our business is finished. Hours are valuable. If Sol is going to prepare a reception for this outlaw, we should be there to follow it up from behind.
Pell, Damon said quietly, will gladly assist your undocking, but the merchanter ships you've appropriated stay.
We have crew aboard them. They come.
Take your crew. Those ships are merchanter property, and they remain. So does Josh Tally. He's a citizen of Pell.
No, Azov said. I don't leave one of my own at your asking.
Josh,
Damon said, looking to the side and behind him, where Josh stood with other Union troops, at last inconspicuous among others likewise perfect.
how do you feel about it?
Josh's eyes slid past him, perhaps to Azov's, returned to a forward stare. He said nothing.
Take your troops and your ships, Damon said to Azov. If Josh stays, that's his choice. Take Union presence off this station. You'll be received for docking hereafter by request and by permission of the station master's office. It will be granted. But if time is of value to you, I suggest you take that offer and agree to it.
Azov scowled. He signaled his troop officer, who ordered the units to form up. They walked away, headed for the upcurving horizon, for Blue Dock, where Unity was berthed. And Josh was still standing there, alone. Eileen got up and hugged him awkwardly, and Damon clapped him on the shoulder.
Stay put here, he said to Eileen. I've got a Union ship to get undocked. Josh, come on.
Nyhart, Eileen said to those nearest her, see that they reach Central in good order. They went behind the Union forces, took the Niner corridor as the Unioners headed for their ship, started to run. In the corridors there were doors open, the folk of Pell standing there to observe. Some began to shout, to wave, cheers for this last, merchanters' occupation. "They're ours!" someone yelled. "They're ours!" They took the emergency ramp, came upward at a run. Downers met them in it, scampered along, bounced and bounded, and chattered welcomes. The whole spiral echoed with Downer shrieks and squeals and human yells from the corridors as the word spread from level to level. A few Unioners passed on the way down, headed out at instructions over helmet comm, likely feeling very conspicuous where they were. They came out in Blue 1. Downers were back in occupation of Central, and grinned welcome at them through the wide open doors.
You friends, Bluetooth said. You friends, all?
It's all right, Damon assured him, and worked his way past a crowd of anxious brown bodies to settle himself at the main board. He looked back, at Josh, at the merchanters.
Anyone here who knows this kind of comp?
Josh settled into place by him. One of the Nyharts took comm. Another one settled into another comp post. Damon keyed through to comm.
Norway, he said, you've got first release. I trust you'll ease out without provocations. We don't need complications. Thank you, Pell, Mallory's dry voice came back. I like your priorities. Hurry it down there. Have your own troops undock you. You can come in again when we're stable and pick 'em up. Agreed? They'll be safe.
Pell Station, another voice cut in. Azov's. Agreement specified no welcome for Maziani. This one is ours.
Damon smiled. No, Captain Azov. This ship is ours. We're a world and a station, a sovereign community, and apart from the merchanters who are not residents here, we maintain a militia. Norway constitutes the fleet of Downbelow. I'll thank you to respect our neutrality. Constantin, Mallory's voice warned him, on the edge of anger. Undock and stand off, Captain Mallory. You'll stay put until the Union fleet has vacated our space. You're in our traffic pattern, and you take our orders. Orders received, she answered finally. Stand by. We're going to pull back and deploy riders. Unity, see that you lay a straight course out of here, and give my regards to Mazian.
Your own merchanters, Azov said, are going to be the ones to suffer from this decision, Pell Station. You're harboring a vessel that has to prey on shipping to live. Merchanter ships.
Get your tail out of here, Union, Mallory shot back. Trust at least that Mazian can't double back on you. He won't dock at Pell while I'm in the area. Go attend your own business. Quiet, Damon said. Captain, move out.
There was a flurry of lights. Norway was loose. 3. Pell System. You too? Blass asked wryly. Vittorio adjusted his hold on his meager sackful of belongings, awkwardly hand over handed his way in the narrow access, null G, in line with the rest of the crew which had held Hammer. It was cold down here and dimly lit. There was a vibration, the action of a shuttle tube grappling to their lock. Don't see that I have much choice, he said. I'm not staying to talk to the merchanters, sir.
Blass gave him a twisted smile, addressed himself to the lock, which opened to take them out a narrow tube and into the waiting warship. The dark gaped for them. Unity moved, a steady acceleration. Ayres sat in the cushioned comfort of the Unity's top-level main room, carpeted, severely modern, with Jacoby beside him. Screens apprised them of their course, a whole array of screens showing numbers and images. They made it clear through an avenue opened by merchanter vessels, a narrow tunnel through the surrounding horde, and finally Azov spared time to look in on them by vidlink, occupying one of the screens.
All right?
Azov asked of them. Going home, Ayres said softly, self-satisfied. I'll propose something to you, Captain, that at this moment Sol and Union have more in common than not. That while you're sending that inevitable courier back to Cytine, you include a proposal from my side. Cooperation for the duration.
Your side has no interest in the beyond,
Azov said. Captain, I suggest to you that that interest may be on the verge of awakening, and that it would be far from Union's advantage for Union to be less forward in offering Earth its protection than the Merchanters' Alliance is going to be. After all, the Alliance has already sent Earth its messenger, so Sol can pick and choose, can't it? The Merchanters' Alliance, Union, or Mazian. I suggest a discussion of the matter, a renegotiation. It seems that neither of us has the authority to cede Pell, and I hope that I can give my government favourable recommendations toward yours. Eileen came, with a great crowd of merchanters, stood in the doorway of battle-scarred Central, while downers scampered aside in mild alarm. But Bluetooth and Satin knew her, and danced and touched her for joy. Damon rose from his place, took her hand, and gave her a place to sit near him and Josh. "I don't feel much like long climbs," she said, breathing hard. We've got to get the lift system working." He found time simply to look at her, looked back to the screen by his own console, at a face lying sideways on white sheets, at tranquillity and dark, lively eyes. Alicia Lucas smiled, the faintest of movements. "Call just got through," he said to Eileen. "Got word to and from down below. A crippled probe appealing to Mallory for rescue out of main base, and an operator somewhere removed from base saying Emilio and Milico are safe. Couldn't confirm it. Things are badly torn up down there. The operator's base is somewhere in the hills, but evidently everyone was under cover and all right. I need to get a ship of our own down there, and probably some medics." "Neihart," Eileen said, looking up at her companions. A big merchanter nodded.
Anything you need, he said. We'll get it down there.
Chapter 6. Pell, Green Sector 1. January 29th, 2353. 2200 hours main day. 1000 hours alter day. It was a bizarre gathering, even for Pell, in the rearmost section of the concourse, in the area where separate, illusory screens afforded a little privacy to parties. Damon sat with Eileen's hand locked firmly in his, and amid the table, the red eye of a portable camera, a presence in itself, for he had wanted her to be among them tonight, as she had always been with his father and with all of them on family occasions. Emilio was by him, and Milico, and Josh on his left, and next to Milico and Emilio a small clutch of downers, who obviously found chairs uncomfortable, and yet delighted in the chance to try them, and to sample special delicacies, fruits out of season. At the far end of the table, the merchanter Neihart and Signy Mallory, the latter with an armed escort who relaxed sociably in the shadows. About them was music, the slow dance of stars and ships across the walls. The concourse had settled somewhat back into routine. Not quite the same, but nothing was. I'll be putting out again, Mallory said. Tonight. Staying was a courtesy.
Where? Neihardt asked bluntly.
Just do as I advise you, merchanter. Designate your ship's alliance. You're off limits. Besides, I've got a full load of supplies for now. You'll not stray far, Damon wished her. Frankly, I don't trust that Union won't try something yet. I'd just as soon know you're in the vicinity. She laughed humorlessly. Take a vote on that. I don't walk Pell corridors without a guard. All the same, he said, we want you close. Don't ask me my course, she said. That's my business. I've places. I've sat still long enough. I've places. I've sat still long enough.
We're going to try a run to Viking, Neihardt said, and see what kind of reception we'll get in about another month.
Might be interesting, Mallory conceded. Luck to us all, Damon said.
Part 2. Pell, Blue Dock, January 30th, 2353. 0130 hours main day, 1330 hours alter day. The hour was well into alter day, the docks nearly deserted in this non-commercial zone. Josh moved quickly, with the nervousness he always had outside someone's protective escort on Pell, with the vulnerable feeling that the few strollers on the dockside might know him. Hisa saw him, stared solemn-eyed. The Pell dock crew by berth 4 surely recognized him, and the troops on guard there did, rifles angled toward him. "Need to talk to Mallory," he said. The officer was a man he knew, Di Jans. Jans gave an order, and one of the troopers slung his rifle into carry and motioned him ahead up the access ramp, walked behind him through the tube and into the lock, past the quick traffic of troops this way and that in the noisy corridor and suiting room. They took the lift up into the main central corridor, where crew hastened about last-minute business. Familiar noises, familiar smells, all of it. She was on the bridge. He started to go in, and the guard inside stopped him, but Mallory looked his way from her place near the command post and curiously signaled both guards permission.
Damon send you?
She asked when he stood before her. He shook his head. She frowned, set her hand consciously or unconsciously on the gun at her side.
So what brings you?
Thought you might need a comp tech, someone who knows Union side, inside and out. She laughed outright.
Or a shot when I'm not looking?
I didn't go with Union, he said. They'd have redone the tapes, given me a new past, sent me out, maybe to Saul Station. I don't know. But to stay on Pell, right now, I can't do that. The stationers know me, and I can't live on a station. Not comfortably.
Nothing another mind wipe can't cure.
I want to remember. I've got something. The only real thing. All that I value.
So you go off and leave it?
For a while, he said.
You talked to Damon about this?
Before coming down here. He knows. Eileen does. She leaned back against the counter, looked him up and down thoughtfully, arms folded.
Why Norway?
He shrugged. No station calls, are there? Except here.
No,
She smiled thinly.
just here. Sometimes. Ship she go?
Lily murmured, staring at the screens, and smoothed the dreamer's hair. The ship pulled away from the up above, rolled with a move quite unlike most ships which came and went and shot away. Norway, the dreamer named her.
Some day,
Said the storyteller, who had come back full of tales from the big hall. Some day we go. Constantines give we ships. We go, carry we sun in we eyes, not fraid the dark, not we. We see many, many things. Bennett, he give we come here. Constantine, they give we walk far, far, far. Me spring come again. I want walk far, make me nest there. I find me star and go. The dreamer laughed, warm laughter, and stared out at the wide dark where Sun walked and smiled. And that was Downbelow Station by C.J. Cherryh. So yeah, pretty crazy climax at the end. Things happen very fast. A lot happens very swiftly. So what does this mean for the setting? So we've seen what the setting, at least around Earth, was like in Hellburner and Heavy Time and Hellburner. Uh, so we know kind of what life was like living in the belt, and then in the pressure of military buildup. The military buildup, in fact, that would send out Conrad Mazian's fleet, the company fleet, the Earth Company fleet, out into the stars to basically become a police force and fight Union, which was, you know, people on Earth didn't really understand about and still don't. Um, so the setting now, after this point, enters what's known as the era of rapprochement, where basically there's a rapprochement, and Union and Earth Company, the Merchanter Alliance, um, basically have entered into it's less it's not détente really. It is rapprochement where they're like, okay, we are not at each other's throats. Actual communication with each other and trade with each other and cooperation is more beneficial to all of us than the alternative. Um, so on Union's end, what's going on there is we've already had allusions to the fact that they've expanded hard, fast, and everywhere. So they've massively overextended themselves. Um, in a huge way. This includes interesting projects that they've done um, in order to mess with company fleet when that was more of a formal conflict and before the Maziani became space pirates, or the equivalent thereof, which this book makes reference to and is fairly explicit. So one of these things that they left behind that they did was what occurs at in the event is covered by the events of 40,000 at Gehenna. The basic premise of 40,000 at Gehenna, and we'll learn more about the ramifications of it when we get to that short story. Actually a long story. That book is it's a colony made from scratch where the people who are put there, the Azi mostly that are put there, are largely left to their own devices and pretty much forced to rough it with no real support. Now, the reason they do this, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's kind of a spoiler for 40,000 at Gehenna, but it's not really one for Citeen, in my opinion, because we'll go into ramifications as it pertains to Citeen when we get there. Um, Basically, Union sets that colony up to fail in order to be problematic for Earth Company, because it's like right on the other side of the border at the time that they're doing it. Um, So I don't know that that's what I'm going to get to immediately because there's stuff like Merchanter's Luck I'd really like to do first, which kind of is dealing with roughly concurrent with the events roughly concurrent with Downbelow Station. That one's pretty good. There's also oh, what is it? Rim Runners? I think it's Rim Runners is the one I wanted to get to. I need to reread Tripoint and I need to reread what's it called? Finity's End. I need to reread those on my own time because I honestly don't have a great grasp of how those tie in off the top of my head. Um, Suffice it to say, this is kind of a stabilizing influence on the universe, but there's still tension as 40,000 at Gehenna will attest. The reasons behind that will attest. I forget how far down the line Cytine is from this. Can I reach my copy of it from here? I can see the copy. Can I reach it? Yes. Yes, I can. Does this give me a time frame? 'Cause I don't remember the date. I want to say it's a ways afterward. Here we go. This one does not have lots of dates. I think she after having like lots of specific times and dates for things happening in Downbelow Station, she was like, we don't need to do that again. We really don't need to do that again. Um, does this say? I might have to look it up. Give me a sec here. I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, at the beginning, it's got an introduction that kind of establishes this is what the status quo of the universe looks like, but it doesn't say how many years after it's taking place. So let me real quick check. Cytine Wiki. Yes, it's in Alliance Union. There is an Alliance Union wiki. I shouldn't be surprised. Where does it take place in the time frame? Thank you. This isn't telling me. Yeah, I know when Union was founded, but I don't know. Well, it's not telling me where it takes place on the timeline. That is not helpful. That's unfortunate. It takes place some significant time after, not a huge amount of time. It's not like I don't think it's 100 years, but it is after, I believe, down below by call it half a century, maybe. I don't know. Oh, I could check Read Genesis to see if Read Genesis has it, because that is very tightly plotted. And she might have done it there, and I don't remember. Let me check. If anyone else knows off the top of their head when the events of Cytine take place. Okay, here we go. So, given that the first date I am seeing in Regenesis is 2424, so the events of Cytine start roughly 50 years after. So my gut was right, which is nice. I like it when my gut is right, but I like the facts to confirm I'm right better. Anyway, um, so we will be getting to Cytine eventually. It is not going to be immediate. I kind of did want to do something a bit different. What I'm tempted to do, let me just make sure that I'm looking at the right one here. By Ren Warum. It's either virology or escapology, and I cannot remember which is the first one. There might be more. Okay, I'm pretty sure it is escapology is the first one. I believe I'm correct. I will double check this now that I have a web browser open. Let us find out. That is not helpful to me. There we are. No, really? Yeah, there's the author. Here we go. Yes. Okay. Escapology is indeed the first one. And then virology comes second. I'm not seeing any obvious sequels. Ah, no, here we go. There's another one. No, that's not. That's not related. Never mind. It's just thematically relevant. Looks like it's just those two. So I will warn people that escapology, one of the two, is almost beat for beat Neuromancer by Gibson. So part of me is like, why don't I do that first and then? But um, and people have asked for Neuromancer. Maybe I'm going to do Neuromancer next week. I think I might have just convinced myself. um, I think I might have just done that. What have I done? What have I done? So that's a decision, I guess. Let me think on it. Um, I do want to do something in between CJ Cherryh stuff at this point, so I'll figure it out. This Friday we will continue with Death's End, and next Monday we will continue with Lethal Heritage by Michael A. Stackpole. Um, by Michael A. Stackpole, whatever I said, I don't remember. Um, Death's End, where are we at in Death's End? We're about 2/3 of the way through Death's End. So another one, two, three, four, five more installments, maybe six of that. And then we can get to reading The Ascension Factor, which will go by rather more quickly. Um, yep, yep. I do want to get some other Frank Herbert in. I'd love to read. Oh, where is it? Whipping Star and the Dosadi Experiment. Um, those are fun. Those are a fun duo. They're fairly punchy. They're basically mystery thrillers, as only Frank Herbert can write them. Did I ever do Hellstrom's Hive? I've been meaning to read Hellstrom's Hive as well on stream. I've read it in my own time. Um, Maybe someday we'll do Stranger in a Strange Land by Heinlein. I can tell you with some authority, I will not be reading I Will Fear No Evil by Heinlein because it's just not that good. Um, I might do it ironically, but you like there would be a litany of snarky commentary coming from me, and I'm not willing to do. I'm not going to do that. At least Stranger in a Strange Land feels like it brings something to the table, whereas I Will Fear No Evil, I just don't feel it did. Um, if somebody really likes I Will Fear No Evil, I will happily hear why they think it is good. I would love to. I'd happily have a discussion on it. I also have gotten through Endymion, so tentatively I'm going to try to aim to start Endymion um, the end of this year. By the end of this year is the hope. Um, that's going to take us a while to get through. And I also had committed to doing something for Halloween. So we'll see how scheduling shakes out. Because things are going to start getting kind of tight, and then they're going to dilate, and then they're going to get tight again. Um, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah. I'm mostly doing this yapping right now in order to remind myself of what my priorities are more than anything else. I also have to get around to reading aloud the other volumes of the Legend of the Condor Heroes series. I gave you all that initial book taster, um, and didn't do anything more with that. So suffice it to say, I've got plenty of things, delightful treats for all and sundry, that I can do on here. Um, yeah, I think that's it. When I have some free time. Okay, what was I? So I'm reading through this book right now called Reason to Be, and it's like a brand new published book. And it is somebody's first novel, and it shows. And part of me is like, you should totally read this on stream. And part of me is like, maybe not. um, I sort of wonder how much of it is like some sort of sick joke. But it is certainly a book. I'm waiting for it to catch me. Anyway, um, nope, I have nothing. Nothing at all. Okay. I will see you all later. Thanks for tuning in. If you are listening to this for the first time and you are wondering why these are so rough and so baffling, it's because I do them live, 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 and unedited. Um, do not edit them after the fact. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at 12 noon U.S. East Coast time, unless I have massive technical issues which delay me for over half an hour, as happened today, much to my never ending frustration. Well, the frustration is over now, obviously, but whatever. Um, yep. If you want to catch me live, you can. If you want to just listen to them after the fact, feel free. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That I think is it. Jesus, I haven't checked my comments in a minute. What do I got for comments? Van Ringo commented, Stackpole has written in several different properties and genres. He certainly has. He certainly has. Ben Pataki227 comments, wish you could cut out all the faff and just read the book. Thank you, though. Sorry. I have too much faff. There is much faff. Um, yes, I could stand to edit my stuff a bit more. Sure, I could stand to leave all this stuff for the end, so people can just immediately skip to the next thing, and probably I should. I'll think about it. How about that? I will think about it. I've tried to get better. I think sometimes I have, and sometimes I have gotten worse. Yep. Alrighty. So to everyone out there, stay safe, stay sane, be decent to each other, keep fighting the good fight, as it were. If you're in the Los Angeles region, or not, but happen to be there, um, protests are some of the few ways we're able to express our opinion and enforce a certain degree of change out of our leadership. And it would be nice if some of the change could occur soon. Positive change would be nice. Anyway, with that, I'm going to leave you all.